This is the Louie T Network. You are now officially in the lab room. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the off season, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off.
Who else could it be? Me. Your man. Louie T. Welcome to the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie T aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League in their 2017 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, so you cannot tell how these players are going to pan out. I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League, and so we will get a score for each and every single player selected by X said team in the draft, in this case the Green Bay Packers. We will then apply bonuses when necessary, add up all of those scores, divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us a final overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer, are in total control over who's next, as this is the you pick format, or as I like to call it, the up format. Simply be the first, not the second, not the third, but the first person in the comment section of this video when it is uploaded in future uploads to simply leave a comment saying two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Couple of examples: Falcons next, Lions next, Ravens next, Titans next, Texans. You get the drift. You don't want to be too wordy, and you better be fast, because within seconds of the video uploading, there are people who are up and getting their team up next, or just a team they'd like to see. And so I plead with you to turn on your notifications. If you're not following me on Twitter, you probably want to do that as well. And also, if you haven't already done so at this point and you're watching this video, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. With that being said, let's jump into the draft of the Green Bay Packers. It's a lengthy one, 10 players in all. And this is where the Packers make their mark. They're among a small group of teams in the league that everyone's really chasing after. You're talking about teams that are good year in and year out, that give themselves a chance to win a Super Bowl championship. You're talking about the Seattle Seahawks. You're talking about the Green Bay Packers. Of course, you're talking about the New England Patriots. You're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Teams of that ilk. Now, of late, the Ravens haven't been as sharp as we're used to seeing, and the Steelers haven't won a Super Bowl in quite some time. Neither have the Packers, but these are teams that are in the mix each and every single year for the most part. And the common theme with all of those teams, maybe you could exclude the Ravens. I am a Joe Flacco guy myself, but all of them have Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks. But also all of those teams, with the exception probably of the New England Patriots, and they got Tom Brady, do it extremely well here in the draft. And this is where you keep your team good. You want to have a shot. You need a really good quarterback, but you also need to surround them with the parts necessary to get the job done. And this is the place where you start to do that here in the draft. And not many teams in the league do it better than Ted Thompson and company in Green Bay. Let's jump into their draft. Second round, they had a first round pick traded out, and the reason why I love this pick so much is because not only did you get more value later in the draft, but you also got this player in the right spot. Thought someone would reach for Kevin King in the first round. They didn't. And so in the second round, 33rd overall pick, Washington cornerback Kevin King is the selection for the Green Bay Packers. And I love where the Packers got him in this draft. Again, I thought he was a second round talent. I thought someone was going to reach for him in the first. They didn't, and I love the selection. I love the value. I love that the Packers traded back and still got a guy that they probably coveted as a first round selection in this draft. Let's talk about him pros. We start with his size at 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a height, weight, speed specimen, folks. There's no other way to say it. When you got a guy that is 6'3" at the cornerback position, cha-ching, you're talking about absolute size at a premium position in this league. When you're talking about a guy that's running a 4.43 40 at 6'3", you're talking about elite speed to go with elite size. When you're talking about a guy with a 39.5-inch vertical, you're talking about elite speed, elite size, and elite leaping ability all in one frame. And oh, by the way, he has quickness to go with it. Was among the top at the combine in terms of his position at the short shuttle and the 3-cone drill. So this is a guy that was among the best in terms of athletes. He tested extremely well, and you can see a lot of those tests being executed out on the football field. He's not just a workout warrior. It actually translates itself to the football field. He's got length. Again, 6'3", 200 pounds. Need I say more about his length, which is going to help him at the cornerback position for sure. He's an LLCer, and again, you can't be an elite corner. You can't be a first round or even a second round. This guy was a fringe first round corner in my estimation, and that the first pick in the second round tells you all you need to know about him being a fringe first rounder. You don't get any closer to the first round than that. And you can't be a first or second round pick for that matter. To me, in my eyes, if you're not an LLCer, and all that means is you look, you locate, and you contest the football. He does those things with ease, and I love the way he looks for the football, because unlike a lot of corners who look back at the very last moment when they see the receiver looking back, this guy knows I've got the receiver on my hip, man. He's right here. He's not going anywhere. Let me see if I can locate ball, because if it's underthrown, I want to adjust. I don't just want to be in the picture and look back when the receiver looks back and the ball's going to hit me in my back, and as I turn around, I miss an opportunity for an interception. No, I want to locate ball as soon as possible. So if I need to stop, plant, and go back and get it, I can. If I need to stop and use this 6'3" frame to elevate and go up and get it with that 39.5-inch vert, then I'll do that as well. So it was a really good job of locating the football, okay? You cannot locate the football if you don't look. Well, he looks, he locates, and then he contests the football. You don't only have one touchdown thrown on you the entire college football season if you're not looking, locating, and contesting the football. I can assure you of that. Ball skills. He probably had the greatest play in all of college football last year. If you saw the interception versus, I believe it was Arizona State. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was Arizona State. Man, was that a thing of beauty or what? He goes up with one hand, snags the football down, gets his foot in bounds, which I don't know how he was able to do that. It was just a play that someone with elite ball skills is capable of, and no one else. And so you either have it or you don't. This guy has the ability to do things like that. And you saw all of his traits and characteristics on display in that one particular play. You saw him locate the football. You saw him go after it with the ball skills. You saw the leaping ability. That 39.5-inch vert was on display. You saw the 6'3" frame and that length and his ability to climb the ladder and go get the football. And then you saw him play ballerina by getting his feet in bounds and making that interception count. And that was in the end zone, folks. So he's taking points off the scoreboard with that one. It was just, like I said, an uncanny play by an uncanny human being. This guy is not a normal corner, okay? You're not gonna see a bunch of 6'3", 200-pound corners running 4.43 with a 39.5-inch vert walking around. That's just not how it goes generally. Fluid in space, okay? His fluidity in space, it's one of those things you see from a guy that allows him to just move around the field with ease. He does a really good job after transitioning, and sometimes he has a problem transitioning, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But when he does make that transition and he's able to flip his hips, he's just so smooth. A lot of times on these underneath routes, if you watch him on a slant, he's undercutting the slant because he's so fluid. He's able to flip his hips, turn his feet and move and drive on the football very quickly, very fluid out in space. He's scheme diverse, and for a team like the Green Bay Packers that 1 minute is playing trap two under Dom Capers, and they play just as well as anybody in the league, and the next minute they're playing man to man and they're coming after the quarterback. That's what you want out of a guy, is to be scheme diverse. So you don't really know what's coming. We have the ability to go man to man. We can go cover 3. We can go trap 2, as Dom Capers loves to do. They can employ a number of different things, and you got to see that on tape. You got to see him get in the receiver's face, play some press. Saw him also press and bail. You also saw him play off. You saw him play cover 3. And so there are a number of different coverages. This guy's extremely flexible when you ask him in different schemes to do what it is he needs to do. And so that was refreshing to see as well. Then you have versatility. This is a guy that came to Washington as a safety, played his first couple of years at the safety position before moving over to corner. So this is a guy, and the Packers, we've seen this in the past. They did the same thing with the corner that they took out of Arizona State a couple of years ago in Demarius Randall, a guy that was a safety that could play corner, and they ultimately put him at the cornerback position. They love that flexibility. They love that versatility in Green Bay. Here's another guy that can play safety, play corner, both sides. And even if you need him to, I think he could jump in the slot, although I think he's a little big, and I don't think he's as quick as you would like him to be in terms of playing those little jitterbugs in the slot. However, if they put a big guy in the slot, he's probably more than apt to go into the slot with a big receiver and be able to cover him. That being said, he's a willing tackler, and there was a lot made of his tackling ability or lack thereof during the draft process. A lot of people kept telling me, this guy can't tackle. All he's doing is lunging, and he does just lunge, but he's willing. I'm not saying he's a great tackler. Okay, those words did not come out of my mouth. But what I am saying to you is he's willing to put his body on the line. He's not afraid. I see a lot of guys who make business decisions when they see a 220-pound running back coming their way, and they give you the old ole. Okay, ole! They move the hell out of the way. That's not what Kevin King's looking to do. He's going to throw his body out now. Again, he may not see what he's hitting. He may not come close, but he's willing to put his body out. And I've seen him more times than not put his body on the line and hit something. Now, did it go down? I don't know. Okay, a lot of times I didn't see the guy actually go down on the ground, but there were times where he would go and make a play for a tackle for loss, where he would go and stick a shoulder in there and get a guy on the ground, or at least help assist get a guy down by throwing his shoulder in there, tripping him up. Here comes some reinforcements to get him down on the ground. So he's a willing tackler. Is he a great one? No. By no stretch of the imagination is he a great tackler, but he's a willing one. I'll take that guy and I'll mold him every single day of the week. So you go from those pros to some of his cons. And to me, the first thing that jumped off the screen to me, inconsistent press and angles to the football. Now, let's start with the inconsistent press. He loves to come up, get in the face, and delete the airspace of receivers. He loves to come in here and say, all right, man, you about to smell my breath. And that's cool. That's all fine and dandy. The only time it's not is when you miss that jam. Now, if you're going to get in a receiver's face, you better damn make sure you lay hands on that man properly. And if you don't, and he's able to defeat you at the line of scrimmage, now you got problems, especially if you don't have elite makeup speed. Now, this guy's got elite size and length. If you remember back in the day, and I shouldn't even say back in the day, it's showing age, but Nnamdi Asomugha, for a lot of you football fans out there, was a guy that didn't have elite speed. He had enough speed. Early in his career, he would come up, he would pressure, he'd be physical at the line of scrimmage, and when he would miss, he had length. So when he could locate the ball, he could still stick his long go-go gadget arms out and get the football out of there so that the receiver could not make a play. This is the same thing that Kevin King has, or we think he has. We'll talk about that later, but sometimes he misses off the line of scrimmage with that jam. I watched him in that same Arizona State game that I mentioned earlier, and a guy named Harry, I don't know his first name, but he was a big guy. And they were jockeying for position at the line of scrimmage, tussling with each other, and Harry would win off the line of scrimmage. And I saw Kevin King having a tough time getting back into the play, and there were some well-thrown footballs in there that he just could not defend. Speaking of which, he can be a bit grabby. All right, that's something that I see could be a problem moving down the line. He loves to put his hands on receivers 10, 15 yards down the field. Or in the college football game, you may be able to get away with that, especially if you're one of the top corners in the country. They'll let some things slide. And also where pass interference is only 15 yards, hey, what are you going to do 30 yards down the field? In the NFL, that's a 55-yard pass interference penalty if you don't know how to take your hands off of a receiver. And he's in good position a lot of the time. He just refuses to let the receiver go. I think he just feels comfortable knowing I've got my hands on him. I know exactly where he is. He's going to have to clean that up, or he's going to pick up a lot of penalties at the next level. You ever heard of a headhunter? Guys that come after your head. That was the same back in the day when guys used to actually have the opportunity to come after your head. It's no longer the case in the NFL. This guy isn't a headhunter. He's a leg hunter, okay? That's the next con. I talked about it earlier. He's going to throw his shoulder in there probably 95% of the time, not even going to see what he's hitting. But he's going to throw his shoulder in there. He's going to dive at you. If he gets you, great. If he doesn't, he says, look, I tried. And so I'm going to need him to actually wrap up at the next level. Actually break down and physically grab a guy and drag him down to the turf and not just throw your body aimlessly at a receiver or a running back and hope that that works. Hopefully he'll stop being an ankle biter and a leg hunter and actually start to break down and wrap players up. And finally, does he have makeup speed is the final con. And that's really not a con, more of a question, but nonetheless, I think it begs to be asked because I talked about the Arizona State game. That's one that I watched. That's the only game I really saw him struggle. All the other games, watched him at least 5 or 6 games. That was the only one I really saw him struggle in. And he took a poor angle on a deep ball. Luckily, it was overthrown, but he tried to undercut it after he got beat off the line of scrimmage. And he didn't have necessarily all of the makeup speed he needed to get back into the hip pocket of that receiver. And so he tried to undercut it, and he really misjudged where that football was going to be. Had that football been about 1.5 yards less air under it, that's a touchdown. And he went and undercut that pass, and that ball had air on it. So does he have the makeup speed once he gets beat off the line of scrimmage? Let's say he comes with a jam and it's a little faulty. Does he have the makeup speed? Don't know the answer to that, but we're gonna find out. The Packers are expecting a lot out of him. They struggled in the secondary last year. They're gonna need him to come in and play some top-notch football right away. In the second round, 33rd pick overall, Washington cornerback Kevin King. Is it all? He hit deep out of here. All right, for the Green Bay Packers with their first selection in the 2017 NFL Draft. Love the value here. Trading back, picking up more picks, and getting a guy that I thought was going to go in the first round, even though I didn't think he needed to go in the first round, in the second round. Tremendous value, tremendous pick. We'll see if he works out for the Packers. Got elite talent, got elite measurables. Let's see if it all pans out for him on the field at the next level. You go to their next pick in the second round. Again, Packers trading back, collecting picks, so they were able to do damage in the mid-rounds of this draft, second, third, fourth, and really the second shouldn't be included in the mid-rounds. Those are relatively high draft choices and guys that you're expecting impacts from. Speaking of which, I think this is the guy that could have an immediate impact for this team. Second round, 61st overall selection. North Carolina State defensive back Josh Jones is the selection. Another height, weight, speed specimen. You're going to hear that with these defensive backs. The Packers love height, weight, speed specimens. They love guys that can get it done with not only their size, but their athleticism. Here's another guy that has that in his repertoire. You're talking about a 6'1", 220-pound cornerback safety. I saw a lot more safety than I did corner, but again, these are the things the Packers are looking for. I'm expecting him to play the safety position, but you just never know with the Green Bay Packers as to what they're going to ask him to do at the next level. But you're talking about a 6'1", 220-pound defensive back that runs a 4.41 40, a 37.5-inch vert, and had 11-foot broad jump, not to mention 20 reps of 2 1/4. So you're talking about a pure, unadulterated physical specimen here in Josh Jones. And he looks the part of an NFL safety or corner, probably more of an NFL safety than anything else, which is what I think the Packers are going to utilize him as. Outstanding range and closing speed is the next pro. This guy comes down in a hurry, closes the distance between he and the ball carrier in a blink of an eye. outstanding range as a single high safety. I saw him range from the middle of the field all the way out to the sidelines. He has no problem getting from a hash to the third of the field on one side of the field. He's just outstanding range, and he can come down, like I said, and really fill an alley quickly and erase the space between he and a ball carrier who's looking to get to the second level. Does a really good job of coming down quickly in a hurry and showing off that 4.41, excuse me, speed, as his closing speed is phenomenal. Physicality. This is a guy that I actually, in a draft that was deep with corners and safeties, he's a name that didn't get mentioned a lot. He jumped off the screen to me at the combine because of the measurables and his speed and all of those things. I thought he had a phenomenal day at the combine, but you still didn't hear his name often. You knew about the Malik Hookers, you knew about the Adams and all of those guys, but you didn't hear a ton about a guy like Josh Jones yet. I'm telling you, he's very, very impressive. The physicality, he will come down and he will hit you. That is for certain. He's looking to hit somebody. Sometimes he doesn't care who. Same color jersey, opposite color jersey. It really doesn't matter to him. He's going to hit somebody. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but make no mistake about it. He's physical. Those 20 reps of 2 1/4, you see it. When he hits guys, they don't drag him for an additional 2 yards. They go sideways or they go backwards. He's looking to get somebody down on the ground in a hurry. Speaking of which, he's a short tackler. When he's not hitting his own teammates and he's not coming up extremely reckless, this is a guy that is getting players on the ground 100% of the time, okay? The only time he misses is when he's out of control. When he comes under control, he's getting the job done each and every single time. That's the kind of guy you want as your last line of defense. That's the kind of guy you trust as a single high safety that can play 45 yards away from the line of scrimmage, going and tracking the football down, but then in the same breath, coming downhill on a runner who has broken through the first wave of defenders looking to make a 10-yard run into a 72-yard run. He's the type of guy that's going to stop that play for only 11 yards, and that's what you need as your last line of defense. Extremely versatile is the next pro. Here's a guy that played corner at NC State, played safety at NC State, both safety positions at NC State. You're talking in the box, and I think he's a phenomenal box safety. He's just as good away from the line of scrimmage as a free safety. And oh, by the way, he can play over the slot as well. So we know this is a league that's turning into a passing league with the tight ends really starting to take a starring role in offenses around the league. This is the type of guy you need to combat that. And I love what he brings to the table from that standpoint as well. So extreme versatility on display with a guy like Josh Jones. He's a costume dresser. And what I mean by that is he does an excellent job of walking up to the line of scrimmage, making it look like he's going to blitz, making it look like he's going to be covering the slot. A lot of times when you see a safety walk right directly over the slot and there's still a corner in front of him, that means that corner most likely is blitzing. It's a big tell for a quarterback. Okay, they're coming with a slot blitz. I know what I need to do. I know where I need to go with the football. He does a great job of dressing that up, making it look like, okay, it's a corner blitz, it's a slot blitz. And then he'll haul ass back to the center of the field right before the snap. And you know, it's hard to confuse the elite quarterbacks, the Drew Breeses, the Tom Brady's of the world, these quarterbacks that have seen it all, done it all in this league year in, year out. But it's guys like Josh Jones who will do a really good job of confusing some of these other quarterbacks that haven't seen all the blitzes, who can be rattled, who can hold on to the football, just that extra tick that you need to allow a guy like Clay Matthews or Nick Perry to get to the quarterback. So this is a guy that does a really good job of disguising what he's doing. Really good costume dresser, if you ask me. And finally, really good ball skills is the final pro. 8 career interceptions while at NC State. Does a really good job of just finding the football, making plays on it. Again, a guy that you really like to see around the ball because you're confident in his ability to go up and make a play on the football or just be Johnny on the spot. Ball caroms into the air, Josh Jones right on the spot to pick it off. You go from those pros to his cons. He's reckless, okay? There's some recklessness to his game. And there's two facets of recklessness for me with him. His eyes, number one, and number two, his downfield pursuit. Don't think he takes sloppy angles. I just think he's coming 110 miles per hour. And so what that allows ball carriers to do is just to stop, allow him to run by, flailing his arms, trying to grab something so that he can save face. And generally he goes flying by. There's one play where he comes 110 miles an hour. His teammate is trying to make the tackle and he slams right into his teammate. Neither one of them make the tackle. The ball carrier goes up the field and picks up an additional 12 yards. So he can be extremely reckless. His eyes, there's one play I'm watching him. He's in position to really force this run back to the inside. It's a run that's gonna go to the outside, a little bit of a sweep. And he's in position to kind of turn this thing back. He has no idea where the ball is. None. He's looking inside. The ball is going outside, and he has no clue where the football is. Don't ask me where his eyes were on that particular play, but it's that type of recklessness sometimes where he's just out of control, out of sorts a little bit. Just need to rein him in a bit. You can get him to be more under control and have an idea of what's going on. Come and break down. When he breaks down, he's a guy that's getting players on the ground. Then you'll be fine with Josh Jones. I'd much rather have a guy that has that kind of energy, those types of instincts, and I just got to reel him in than a guy who's lazy, who's lackadaisical, who you got to try and get that out of. So give me that guy all day long. I can fix that, okay? And then reluctant to shoot his shots on routes, especially when he's in the slot. There'll be a receiver in front of him. He'll be playing off about 7 to 10 yards, and that receiver might be running a seam route. That receiver might be running a post in front of his face or a little bit of a slant, and he'll see it developing. And instead of him saying, all right, I'm breaking on this thing, and I don't know if that's the hesitancy to not give up on a double move and give up a big play, and he just wants to make sure that he identifies the route correctly or what may have you. But there are opportunities for him to use that athleticism to break on the football, and I think he's just waiting just to make sure everything's okay. And sometimes you want guys to make plays. You want them to be playmakers, and not so much reactionary, but you want them to be a little bit more proactive. And I think, and you see this from safeties. A lot of these college safeties, they just want to make sure they're sure of what they're seeing instead of going and making a play. And I think that's the difference between he and a Jamaal Adams or Malik Hooker. Those guys have instincts. They're not afraid to shoot their gun. They're not afraid to shoot their shot and go and try to make a play. Whereas Josh Jones is like, that might be a seam route, that might be a post, that could be a sluggo. I'm not gonna bite on it until I see the quarterback release the football. Then it's too late. So with that being said though, I think this is one of those guys that was slept on throughout the process. He's a really talented safety. I'm anxious to see what they decide to do with him in terms of what they're going to do schematically with him. Do they want to see him in the box more? Do they want him to be a pure free safety? Are they going to interchange him? Is he going to play some corner? Are they going to put him in the slot? How are they going to use Josh Jones? I'm intrigued, but everything's there in the second round, 61st pick overall. NC State defensive back Josh Jones for me is a triple. Really feel like this guy's going to come in and not necessarily start day one, but he's going to push all of those safeties that the Packers have. They struggled in the secondary mightily a season ago. Morgan Burnett is safe in terms of being a guy that's still going to be in the mix in Green Bay. But I tell you what, you pair him up, him being Josh Jones, with a guy like Clinton Dix, and all of a sudden now you've got one of the most athletic safety tandems in all of the National Football League. So we'll see how that goes as the season progresses, when this guy's going to start getting starter snaps, because I think it's not going to be long before Josh Jones finds the field in a starting capacity. You go to the third round now, 93rd overall selection, Auburn defensive lineman Montravius Adams is the selection. This is a guy that I broke down in the Draft Prospects 101 series, so if you haven't already checked that out, please go do so. In the playlist section, 2017 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series is where you'll find his video and a lot others, so check that out if you haven't already done so. But this is a big guy, moves well for his size, creates a little bit of havoc up front, does a lot of good things. The Packers need more bodies up front to impact not only the running game, but also get after the quarterback a little bit. I think Montravius Adams can do a little bit of both. And so I think this is a really solid pick in the 3rd round. A guy that I thought was going to go off the board in the 2nd round. You get him in the 3rd round. I think it's tremendous value in the 3rd round, 93rd pick overall. Montravius Adams for me is a triple. It's a really good pickup for a Packers defense that can use all the bodies they can get their hands on up front. They need to get more pressure on the quarterback. They need to be more physical and stout at the point of attack up front. I think a guy like Montravius Adams is going to help them with all of those things and potentially then some. Go to the next pick in the draft for the Packers. 4th round, 108th pick overall. Wisconsin edge rusher Vince Biegel is the selection. 6'3", 246 pounds is where we start with Vince Biegel and his size being his first pro. That's good size. I've heard a lot of people say he's undersized for an edge rusher. And I just look at him and I say, undersized how? Now, if you want to talk about his lack of strength, you can talk about that. But if you're talking about just off of sheer size, how big is Von Miller? He's 6'3", 250 pounds. Are you going to sit here and tell me 6'3", 246 isn't big enough? Get out of my face. So his size, more than adequate for an outside linebacker at the next level. And he's got solid athleticism. He's a 4.67 guy that is plenty of speed off the edge, if you ask me. So this is a guy that is definitely capable of doing enough and holding his own athleticism-wise on the edge. He's a physical football player, sets a physical edge at the point of attack. I think he can hold his own. To me, he's more of a run-stuffing outside linebacker than he is a pass rusher. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, which if you're a Packers fan, you don't want to hear that because you want more guys that can get to the quarterback. You just read up with Nick Perry. Clay Matthews is a guy that you're moving around, and when he's on, he's good, but when he's not and when he's hurt, he's not of much value to you there. So you're looking for more guys to get to the quarterback. And you're hoping that now with J. Pep out of the way, you're going to need more production on 3rd downs. You're hoping a guy like Vince Biegel can do that. I think he's more of a run-stuffing outside linebacker than he is a pass rusher, but he's physical, starting the point of attack, going to give you high energy. He's a high-motor guy, going to give you everything he's got in his gas tank while he's on the football field. Those are all admirable traits to have if you're a football player. He's a high IQ guy as well. That's the next pro. There's a play against USC. In 2015 in the bowl game where they're trying to run what they like to call, they used to call it oh shit. And all it is a tight end fall down play. Well, teams don't do the fall down thing anymore, but what they do is they roll their quarterback out to the opposite side of the field and they have their tight end kind of delay a little bit, kind of block, and then release to the opposite side of the field. All the traffic is flowing one way, then you have your tight end kind of delay and go the opposite way. And if that backside linebacker falls the hell asleep, that's going to end up being a touchdown 9 times out of 10. And Vince Biegel wasn't going for it, okay? He sniffed it out. He saw the tight end coming over late on the delay, ran right in front of him, took that option away, forced Cody Kessler to get rid of the football. And so those are the types of plays you see and you realize, okay, this guy is a smart, high IQ football player. He has some zone drop capabilities. Watched him in zone a couple of times, gets good depth, reads the eyes of the quarterback, picks up guys running through his zone, does a really good job of zone matching. So has some zone dropping capabilities. You don't want this guy in man-to-man coverage. I saw him blown by some less than stellar tight ends athletically. Taylor McNamara of USC ran by him like he was standing in quicksand. So I don't think you want this guy in man-to-man coverage per se, but in zone dropping situations, I think he does a solid job of getting good depth, keeping his eyes on the quarterback, and zone matching when asked to do so. And then finally, bloodlines. Dad played college football, brother played college football, uncle played college football. So he just comes from a family that is ingrained and entrenched in football. So he's got that in his blood. You go from those pros to his cons. To me, he's got a hustle rush as a pass rusher. Very limited rush Rolodex. Okay, what I mean by a hustle rush, he's just one of those guys that's just gonna hustle. He's just gonna give you everything he's got to rush the quarterback, but it's not anything that's set up. His rush is not premeditated. He's not looking to spin. He's not looking to set you up with some outside and back inside. He's not giving you a stutter. It's just pure, let me bull rush. Let me try to run as fast as I can to see if I can't win. He's not using his hands. None of that. He's just trying to use hustle, use effort to get to the quarterback. That shit doesn't work against elite pass protectors in this league. It just doesn't. You can hustle all you want. You can do all of the running and up the field. They'll just push you around the quarterback. They just push you around the pocket. You can go up the field. You can try to bull rush. They're not having it. Elite tackles will stay right there, and they will sit there, and they will stop you dead in your tracks if you don't have something that they need to worry about. And so, to me, he's just a hustle rush guy, okay? An effort guy. He's not going to bring anything to the table from a pass rushing standpoint. He's just going to try to beat you with speed to the outside, which is not elite. He's going to try to beat you with a bull rush, which is not elite. He's going to try to beat you with just extra effort, second and third effort. It's not working. He got 7.5 sacks in one season and 8 in another. So he's doing something right. But again, I don't know if that's going to translate to the next level or not. Doesn't shed blockers well enough for me. That's the next con. I think he could do a much better job of getting off of blocks. I think once you got this guy and you secure your block, he's not a guy that's going to stack and shed and get to the ball carrier. I think once you got him and you put a body on him, you pretty much got him out of the play, if you ask me. He does a really good job of setting a physical edge, keeping a free outside shoulder, but he's not doing anything with that free outside shoulder. He's not disengaging and getting to the ball carrier. You still got it. So I'd like to see him do a better job of using his hands to stack and shed. And then finally, foot injuries. And this is a common theme with this Packers draft this particular year. A lot of guys that have dealt with injuries in college football that you're hoping don't carry over to the pro game. Had a foot injury in 2013 early on as a player at Wisconsin. Had a foot injury that nagged him all of his 2016 season. So missed a ton of time in 2016, limited his production in 2016. So you're hoping that that's something that is in the past, in the rearview mirror, is going to allow him to go to the next level and play at a high level for this Packers football team. But in the 4th round, 108th pick overall, Wisconsin outside linebacker Vince Biegel for me is a double. He's solid. He's okay. He's not great. He doesn't move the needle for me. He was the other guy opposite Watt, and that's okay. There's always another guy. We'll see what he does for this Green Bay Packers team. He's staying local, leaving Wisconsin, going up the street to the Green Bay Packers. You go to the next 4th round pick, 134th overall, BYU running back Jamaal Williams is the selection. This is a guy that I really like. I think he was a phenomenal draft pick here for a Packers team desperate for running back help. And you will see as we progress in this draft that they really felt like they were desperate at the running back position. Let's jump into his pros. 6 feet, 212 pounds is his size. Phenomenal size for a running back. You know, I'm an upright running back type of guy, so he's right up my alley. Physicality and toughness is the next pro. This guy's, and this is a common theme with every single back that the Packers selected. They're looking for a specific type of back. Guys that may or may not hit a home run, but they're going to be physical and they're going to take a toll on the defense when they carry the rock. Jamaal Williams is that type of guy. I can't tell you how many times I watched it. His tape was so much fun to watch. I just kept watching more and more games. At some point I just say, okay, that's enough. You've watched enough. He's fun to watch. I'm watching him drag 2 and 3 defenders. He's a guy that's hungry after contact, which is the next couple of pros. Forward lean. You rarely see this guy go backwards. Now, he takes some shots. As an upright runner, you'd like to see his pad level be lower in certain instances where he's not going to have to take such vicious shots. But there's forward lean. He's always going forward. He's dragging defenders. Speaking of which, he's a yakster. Yards after contact is very consistent with Jamaal Williams. You'll see him contact the guy and still pick up an additional 3 or 4 yards after contact has been made. And he's just that type of runner, extremely physical, forward lean, looking to get more. Speaking of which, part of the reason he's picking up additional yards, he's got a stiff arm, and I don't think enough young backs come into the league equipped with an adequate stiff arm. I think guys just put the stiff arm out there as show. It's fashionable to put a stiff arm out there, all right? It looks good when you put a stiff arm out there, but they're not actually putting the stiff arm out there to do work. They're putting the stiff arm out there as a means to an end. Jamaal Williams is looking to put the stiff arm out there to put you on your ass so that he can pick up more yards. And I love that about him because the stiff arm, if used properly, is probably the single most dangerous weapon a running back can possess. If used correctly, you can keep a man at bay and at times discard him and pick up additional yards. So his stiff arm is top notch, and you don't see a lot of backs come into the league with a top notch stiff arm. He's a 3-down back in my estimation. I saw him catch it effectively out of the backfield. He can run it in between the tackles. He can get outside when need be. And finally, I saw him stick his nose in there and pass protect on a consistent basis, well enough to make me feel comfortable putting him on the field on 3rd down situations. So I think he's a complete 3rd down back. You know how I like my backs. I don't like to have to add oil and butter and all of those extra things that you got to add when it's not a complete pancake mix. I just want to add water and stir. He's one of those types of backs. Just pour Jamaal Williams, stir it up, and you got yourself a complete back in this system. He's also a guy that has good vision. It's not great. He's gotten better over the years. If you watch young Jamaal Williams progress into the veteran Jamaal Williams, you'll see a guy that got better as he got longer into his collegiate career with his vision, became a little bit more patient. He's still got to work at that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I think his vision has gotten better. It's good enough to help him excel at the next level. And finally, he's got a nose for the end zone. When this guy gets by the end zone, he's a tough customer as it is to bring down, but he's dragging defenders, he's extending the football out, he's finding a way to get in. He's got a nose, a knack for finding his way across that thick, solid white line separating player field and the end zone. And finally, you get to his cons. He lacks top end speed. Now, he ran a 4.53 at his pro day, which is impressive, but I don't think he actually runs that speed consistently on the field. Now, I will say this. He's going to hit a ton of triples, and he's going to hit the occasional home run. I don't think he's going to hit consistent home runs. He's a guy that you can track down from behind if a defender has an angle or that defender has elite speed. You can run him down from behind. However, he does a really good job of setting up blocks down the field, and he does have an extra gear that will allow him to get into the end zone. Go see the Toledo game, go see the West Virginia game on some runs where he was able to outrun defenders and either get into the end zone or set them up down inside the 5 to get into the end zone. So he's a guy that does have the ability to hit the home run, but I think he's lacking that game-breaking speed that you would love your back to have, which is why I think he's here in the 4th round. Also, could be a little bit more patient. I talked about his vision and sometimes the lack thereof. Some of that comes with lack of patience. There are times where he'll just put his head down, barrel into the back of one of his offensive linemen, and pick up 2 yards on a play that if he was just a little bit more patient, maybe something would open up, maybe something would arise. I'm not asking you to be Le'Veon Bell, where you're extremely patient to the point where it's almost counterproductive, but I am asking you to allow things to develop, allow guys to open up some holes for you and create some space so that you can see where you maybe need to go with the football instead of just barreling into the back of an offensive player or a defender and going down on the play. So that's something that I think he can work on, just being a little bit more patient and allowing things to develop and setting up blocks at the line of scrimmage, because I think he does a good job of that down the field. And I think he can be a little bit more patient and set up some blocks around the line of scrimmage. And then finally, injury concerns, and this is a theme that you will see with every single back selected by the Packers in this draft. This is a guy that only had 1 season out of 4 at BYU where he didn't miss at least a game. Now, some of those missed games were transgression based, where he was popped for underage drinking when he was at BYU. And so that's not something you really worry about. There's also a whole entire season that he took off for personal reasons in 2015. I'm pretty sure the Packers delved deep into that and asked him what was up with that. But nonetheless, he didn't play a full season up until his final season in 2016. So he's a guy, and I think, and matter of fact, I think that might have been the freshman years when he played every single game. Okay, he missed at least 1 game in every single season except his freshman year, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a guy that has some injury concerns, has dealt with some things. So you're hoping that that's behind him and he's going to be able to come in, because you've had plenty of injuries at the running back position. Last year, you don't want to see any more injuries at the running back position. So we'll see if he's able to stay healthy. But in the 4th round, 138th overall selection, BYU running back Jamaal Williams for me is a triple. I was fascinated with his game. If he had legit top end speed, if this guy was running a 4.45, he's a 2nd round, potentially a 1st round back. He can make you miss. He's got a little bit of wiggle. His balance isn't the greatest in the world, but I think he's got everything you need to get the job done at the next level at the running back position. You go to the 5th round, 175th overall selection. Purdue wide receiver DeAngelo Yancey is the selection. 6'2", 201 pounds. So that's good size. Got some good athleticism on him. 4.46 guy, can run a little bit, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Has a nice catch radius. Will go up and get the football. Was a high jumper in high school. You can see that. He does go up and attack the football. Outstanding ball tracking skills. Throw it over his shoulder, inside, outside shoulder. He does a really good job, a phenomenal job of going and getting the football. He's one of those guys that is very comfortable catching it over either shoulder. Will go and get it. Will extend for it. Does a really good job of going and tracking the deep ball down his field. Speaking of which, he's a deep threat. All right, I'm gonna tell you who this guy reminds me of a little bit later on. But to me, he's got that ability. If you watch him, a lot of his plays are big plays. He averaged almost 20 yards a catch in a couple of his seasons at Purdue, which gives you a really good framework from which to work with in terms of what this guy brings to the table. So you're talking about a guy that is a legit deep threat. That 4.46 speed, he can open it up. Once he's a strider, and he's one of those guys that has to build up that speed. He's not off the line of scrimmage, burner. But he is a guy, you give him the ability to build up that speed, he will run by you. That is for certain. And then finally, he's a yakster. He can make you miss out in space. He can get some yards after the catch. He can catch a slant, accelerate, and run away from defenders. Saw him do that on tape as well. So he's one of those type of guys. You get it in his hands, you get him out of space, he becomes a threat with the football in his hands. You go to his cons. He's got drops issues. Never had a season where he had over 50% of catch, balls thrown to him. And so that's an issue where it's part his fault, part the fault of the quarterback. And he did not have great quarterbacking his entire life of his career at Purdue. So the 50% target rate or less than that his entire career. I'm not going to beat him up too bad for that, but I did see him drop some balls that you want your receiver to catch. And so there's some concentration issues there, but the guy can catch the football, just needs to concentrate and catch it a little bit more consistently. He's stiff and slow out of breaks, so you're not going to see this guy create a ton of separation. He does run one hell of a Z-out route, and that's when you see a receiver run a slant, then stop, turn, and pivot. A lot of people call it a pivot route. We grew up calling it a Z-out, but nonetheless runs a great Z-out pivot route. Does a really good job with that, but when you see him running comebacks and things of that nature, the corner is right in his hip. He's making tough contested catches, or he's not making the catch because the defender is right in his hip pocket. And so that's something that I think he's going to have to work on, is trying to get in and out of breaks and coming back to the football cleaner and not giving away what he's doing, not having any tells as to what he's doing, being a little bit more fluid in and out of breaks as a receiver. And then finally, he was a part of a ton of bad football. And you ask yourself, what the hell does that have to do with anything? If you watch a lot of his tape, a lot of his big plays come when they're getting their ass whooped. I mean, drubbed. I mean, you're talking about it's 49-7. One game I watched, they were losing 41-0. And his touchdown provided them with the lone points of the game. And they avoided a shutout with 32 seconds left in the game, okay? So, and there's a lot of those types of ball games that he participated in. He won 9 total games in 4 years at Purdue, which tells you all you need to know about how bad they were at Purdue during the time he was there. So they were long removed from the Kyle Orton, Drew Brees days at Purdue. They stunk, and a lot of his big plays came in garbage time. And you say to yourself, what does that have to do with anything? You want a guy that can perform when the lights are their brightest and the stage is its biggest. It's nice when you can go and beat a corner when, there's nothing on the line. That's fine. But what happens when I need you on 3rd and 7 in a game when we're trailing by 2 and we need a field goal on that final possession? Are you going to make that catch? Are you going to create the separation? Are you going to beat that cornerback? Are you going to make that play? You didn't see a lot of that from DeAngelo Yancey because he wasn't in a lot of those situations. So we'll see if that has any merit to it at the next level or not. Nonetheless, he strikes me as a James Jones type of receiver. Remember, James Jones' hands were not A1. Especially when he first came in the league, James Jones would drop the football on you wide open. And Aaron Rodgers put it on the money. As he progressed and got a little bit deeper into his career, his hands became more official. That's what DeAngelo Yancey has going. Remember, James Jones used to run by cornerbacks, could flash speed every now and then. DeAngelo Yancey has that ability. James Jones in that 6'2", 6'3", frame range-wise, 205, 210 pounds. DeAngelo Yancey, same range. So to me, he strikes me as a James Jones type of receiver, a guy that can stretch the field, but also just be a big, physical, imposing receiver. I think the Packers like that idea. In the 5th round, 175th overall selection, Purdue wide receiver DeAngelo Yancey is a double for me as we move on to the next 5th round selection. For the Packers, 182nd overall selection, UTEP running back Aaron Jones is the pick. This is a guy that's going to come in and compete in that all of a sudden now crowded Green Bay Packers backfield. 5'9", 208 pounds. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's got quickness and athleticism as his first pro. Very quick, good athleticism. A guy that at the combine was a top performer in the following categories: the vert, the broad jump, 3-cone, 20 and 60-yard shuttle. He was a top performer in every single one of those categories, which tells you all you need to know about him from an athleticism and explosion standpoint. He's a guy that gets on the football field and he just looks the part of an NFL running back. Now, can he tote the rock on all 3 downs? I'm not as sure of that as some others may be. I question that a bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but one thing's for sure, he has a lot of quickness and athleticism, a guy that to me would make the perfect ideal 3rd down back. And I'll tell you why a little bit later on in this breakdown. Good contact balance. I think a lot of that has to do with his size at 5'9", low center of gravity. You want your guys to have great contact balance. The taller you are, the easier it is for you to get hit and fall down. A lot more of you to hit. And you're not as low, and your center of gravity isn't as close to the ground, whereas you're 5'9", lower center of gravity, not as much to hit, better balance. You see that with Aaron Jones. Excellent receiver. This guy is a phenomenal receiver. There's one play where he literally climbs the ladder. I talked about him having a vert on him, okay? One of the better verts at the combine at the running back position. This guy went up the ladder, put his nutsack on the helmet of the defender and snatched the football from him 45 yards down the field in the end zone like a receiver. It was a thing of beauty. He can catch the football. Made a magnificent catch on another play down the sidelines where he had to leap, extend. And we're talking about a 5'9" running back here. Every inch of his body was extended on that play. Snagged the football down, came down with it, got up, was excited, slammed it down, celebrated with his teammates for a touchdown. It was a thing of beauty. Again, this guy has outstanding hands, which is why I think he has the makings of a tremendous 3rd down back. I don't think every single one of these backs has to come in and play 3 downs. I think you can niche these backs. I think Jamaal Williams can be your 1st and 2nd down back, can even go on 3rd down if need be. But I think Aaron Jones, to me, is the prototypical 3rd down back in this league. And I think he has an opportunity to come in and fill that void for you right away. Has home run ability. Now, you see the 4.56 40 and you say, that's not fast. Hell, Jamaal Williams ran a 4.53 at his pro day. He's faster than 4.56. You watch him on tape, you don't see 4.56. He's running faster than that. Trust me. This guy has a lot more speed than 4.56, and I think on game days he's running a sub 4.5 40. And I think he has the ability to run away. You don't see a ton of guys catching him from behind. He gets out in open field and he's able to take it the distance. So I think he does have an extra gear that allows him to hit the home run at the next level. And finally, special teams value. I saw him returning some kickoffs. I don't know if that's something the Packers have in store for him, have in mind for him or not. but that's a possibility there if you're looking to explore that with Aaron Jones. You go to his cons. Not a ton of wiggle. He's not going to make a lot of guys miss. Much like the final back taken in this draft for you guys, not going to miss a lot of defenders. Not going to juke guys out of space. He's going to lower his shoulder. He's not going to make anybody miss. Not going to give anybody any exotic cuts. Stick his foot in the ground and be dynamic. It's not his game. All right. He hits a crease. He goes north and south. He's not wasting a lot of motion. He gets up the field in a hurry. And his size is the next con. I think his size, coupled with some of the injuries that he's dealt with throughout his collegiate career, doesn't bode well for him being a 3-down back. But I don't think you need him to be at the next level. I think he's a guy that could easily be a 3rd-down back, excel at that, and be just what the doctor ordered for you in the 3rd-down situations for the Green Bay Packers. And then finally, injury concerns. I feel like this is a guy, much like Jamaal Williams that I talked about earlier, who has some injury concerns, didn't play every single game of his collegiate career till the last year in 2016, missed at least 1 game in every single collegiate season that he had. And so Aaron Jones is a guy that you just got to keep an eye on with the injuries. Missed damn near all of 2015 with a torn ligament in his ankle, played in 2 games, missed the rest of the season in 2015. So he's just a year essentially removed from that. So he's a guy that if he can stay healthy, he's explosive, he's dynamic, he can do some things, but does have some injury concerns, much like Jamaal Williams, much like the final back that you took in this draft as well. But in the 5th round, 182nd pick overall, UTEP running back Aaron Jones for me is a double. I think he's the perfect quintessential 3rd-down back in this league. I think he comes in and he can offer you some type of role. I think he can come in and really be a change of pace back. I don't know if you want him necessarily being your rock toter on 1st and 2nd down, but I think he will make a phenomenal change of pace as the 3rd-down back at the next level. You go to the 6th round, 212th pick overall. South Florida offensive lineman Kofi Amichia is the selection. 6'4", 297 pounds. His frame is the first pro. Nice size arms. Played tackle at South Florida, helped pave the way for Marlon Mack at the running back position, who just tore it up in the AAC. He was a huge part of that. And he has a really solid frame for a guy playing the tackle position. Athleticism, I think that really got him drafted. They blew some teams away, including the Packers. 4'9", 40. 33.5-inch vert. We're talking about a 6'4", 300-pound man here. This guy, and you see it on tape, he gets to the 2nd level with ease. All right, does a really good job, and this is the next pro, of getting to the double team. All right, so, you know, a lot of these teams that run zone run blocking schemes, or in the case in college football, are running a lot of read option, which they ran a ton of at South Florida. Those tackles are an axe to block the man in front of them. Sometimes they will even let that defender go, or they will allow the end up the field because, again, the quarterback is reading that defensive end. So they're not asked to block that guy. They're asked to double down on the defensive tackle, squeeze him inside, and then his job is to get to the 2nd level and watch that linebacker. He does a phenomenal job of doing that. And a lot of those big runs, you'll see the tackle crash down and get that kick out block on the linebacker, and then it's just Marlon Mack in the safety, and he's winning that matchup 8 times out of 10. So does a really good job of getting to the 2nd level after committing on that double team. Outstanding movement skills, which I already mentioned. I told you he's got athleticism, can really run. You see him get to the 2nd level. He's out in space in a hurry. He's one of those guys that if you throw a screen, and we know the Packers are a phenomenal screen team, if you throw a screen, this is a guy that can get out in front and really do some damage 20, 30 yards down the field. He's got some strength to him, 33 reps of 2 1/4. And again, we're not talking about a guy that's 6'1" with short arms. We're talking about a 6'4" guy with longer arms that's pumping that iron 33 times. This guy's got some strength to him. And again, you see that he does a good job of anchoring down in the pass game. And that's where that strength comes in handy. Sustains his blocks. Does a really good job of when he gets his hands up underneath the pads of a defender. He does a really good job of not allowing them to shed his block and get into the play. I think he does a really good job of sustaining his blocks. And he's going to offer you some versatility, at least the Packers hope. He played tackle at South Florida. I think the Packers are planning on potentially using him at center, possibly guard. We'll see what the Packers have in mind for him if he does in fact make this roster, but we're going to see if he does have the ability to play multiple positions and in a pinch also be able to kick outside and be a swing tackle if need be. You go to his cons, has to put on some weight. I told you he was 6'4", 297. You're not expecting 6'4", 297 to be or 6'4" with his size to be 297. If you're at center, you probably could get away with that at center. But if you're going to play guard or tackle, you're going to need to put on some weight. He's going to need to put on some weight regardless. And I don't see that being that much of a problem. The question is, can he put on that weight? Will it affect his movement skills? And more importantly, can he sustain that weight? It's one thing to put it on. Can you keep that weight on and still be an effective football player at your new weight? We'll see. I want to see him adjust to NFL speed and power. He didn't see a ton of NFL talent in the AAC. He dominated guys that were smaller than him that aren't going to play on Sundays. It's a different level, and I want to see how he makes that adjustment to guys that you're going to see week in and week out who are just mammoths, behemoths, and beasts. Can he make that adjustment? We'll see. And then finally, he's got to prove that he has versatility. Like I said, he played tackle. I think they're going to kick him inside at the next level. Need to put some weight on him. Can he do all of these things and become a guy that the Packers can lean on as a potential starter down the road, or a guy that is good depth for them and a nice solid backup on game days that can play multiple positions? He's going to have to prove he has versatility if he wants to make this roster. We'll see how many positions he can play for the Packers. That may determine whether he's a Green Bay Packer or not down the road. In the 6th round, 212th overall selection, South Florida offensive lineman Kofi Amichia is a double. Solid pickup. A guy that I think may have some potential for you down the line. We'll see what the Packers decide to do with him as we move on to your final two picks, both made in the 7th round. 238th overall pick, Utah State running back Devante Mays, the 3rd running back taken in this draft by the Green Bay Packers. Tells you all you need to know about what the state of their running back position was coming into this draft. No disrespect to Ty Montgomery. Size is the first pro, 5'11", 230 pounds. This is a big, big man. Athleticism, 4'7" guy. All right, 40.5-inch vertical. I talked about the height, weight, speed specimens that you've seen the Packers go out and get. They love guys that test well. You've seen that throughout this draft. A 10'9" broad jump. This is a guy that also brings physicality and strength to the table. I talked about physicality and strength with Jamaal Williams. I talked about Aaron Jones being a guy that has a little bit of physicality to him. Here's another guy in Devante Mays that has physicality and strength to him. 22 reps of 2 1/4. 420-pound bench press is what he possesses as well. So it's a big physical man at the running back position. Really solid change of direction. When you hear a guy having 22 reps of 2 1/4 that can bench 420, that is 230 pounds, you're thinking of a muscle meathead type. At least that I can't speak for you. I'm speaking from my perspective. I'm thinking of a musclehead, no neck, all shoulders guy, can't scratch his back type of guy. And those guys don't have good change of direction. They're cavemen. That's not what this guy is though. He can change directions. He's not a caveman. I was actually impressed after hearing about his physical exploits and what he was doing in the weight room. I said, okay, this guy's a meathead. He's probably going to be a musclehead. He's probably going to be a stiff. Not the case. Not the case at all. Really solid change of direction. He's a yakster, okay? And not from the sense of making guys miss. He's a yakster because he's got that same forward lean, that same toughness I talked about with Jamaal Williams, the same physicality. He's got that. He's looking to run guys over. He's looking to fall forward. He's the type of guy that you hit, you cut his legs, and he still dives forward for an extra 1.5 yards on the play. So he's a yakster in that sense, not making guys miss necessarily out in space. You go to his cons. He's a 2-down back with little to no wiggle. He's not going to make anybody miss. He had 2 career catches in his career at Utah State. Now, Small sample size, only played 2 years after making the transition as a JUCO transfer. However, he missed a ton of time with some injuries. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But when he did play, 2 catches. 2 catches. All right? That's not enough. So he's a 2-down back in my mind. And you got guys that you've seen catch the football, so I don't think you have to force the issue with Devante Mays as a pass catcher. You've seen other guys catch it, so you feel comfortable in him just being a 2-down back if he is, in fact, the guy that makes this roster. Inconsistent vision and patience. He's a guy that, to me, lacks vision and patience sometimes. And it's not all the time. There are times where he'll see the hole, he'll see the cut, he'll make it, and you'll go, that's impressive. And then there are other times where you say, hey, look, you press this, you stick your foot in the ground, and then you cut it backside. There's a hole there, and he'll just barrel it up into the back of a lineman and not have the patience nor the vision to make it happen. So sometimes he can be inconsistent with that as a runner. And then finally, injury concerns. This is a guy that, like I said, only played 2 years at Utah State, but missed a ton of games in his second year. This 2016 season, missed a ton of action due to a knee injury that he sustained in the second game of the season. Was not right. Had a huge game. First game of the season, like 238 yards and like 3 or 4 touchdowns. Looked like he was setting himself up for a hell of a season. Injures his knee the very next week versus USC. Was not the same guy. Missed a ton of action. Only had 37 carries in 2016. So all of your backs have injury concerns. Add Devante Mays to that list. In the 7th round, 238th overall selection, Utah State running back Devante Mays for me is a double to go along with the other backs you've selected in this draft. And finally, your final pick in this draft, 7th round, 247th overall selection, LSU wide receiver Malachi Dupre is the pick. 6'2", 196 pounds. His size is the first pro. It's good NFL size for a receiver. He's got some athleticism. 4'5", 240, 39.5-inch vert, 11'2" broad. Does that sound familiar to you? Another height, weight, speed type of guy. Packers love guys that test well. You go to his hands. They're really solid hands. I think he can be a little bit better. I think he can be better in contested situations where he's got to fight for the football, but he's got good hands. He's a vertical threat. Much like DeAngelo Yancey, there's another guy that can stretch the field vertically, make some plays down the field. We see the Packers take 1 or 2 of these guys every single year. Last year, you took a guy out of UCLA that could return kicks, but also could stretch the field vertically. Seems like the Packers love guys that can run, that can stretch the field vertically. Malachi Dupre, high jumper in high school, can stretch the field vertically. Yaxter. He's a guy that can catch the football, get some yards after the catch. Not necessarily going to make a ton of moves and make you miss, but he is a guy that will stop on a dime, cut, use a stiff arm, pick up some additional yards after catching the football. He will work for food, okay? He's a WWF-effer. He's a guy that will go out and block. I watched Darius Geis at the end of the season versus Texas A&M rip that A&M defense to shreds. A lot of those big runs were to the side of Malachi Dupre, and it was his block that sprung him for the big run. So he will work for food. And then finally, he's got flexibility, can play both the X and the Z position receivers, can play in the slot, offers you a little bit of flexibility in his ability to do that. So he can play out wide and also play in the slot. You go to his cons, I think he needs to play with more pace. He's a guy that I don't think is going top speed when he gets into his routes, not threatening that corner with a route that looks like it's going up the field vertically, allows corners to kind of sit on things because you're not coming at me full speed. I don't think you're running a vertical route, and so I can squat on things underneath, making it a lot tougher on your quarterback to get you the football. He needs to become a more polished route runner. That's the next con. That kind of goes hand in hand with playing with more pace. You want to threaten these receivers. I remember a wise man once telling me once upon a time, make everything look the same. Your 9 route should not look any different than an out route or a dig route. Everything should look like you're challenging that corner vertically. And then at the stem of your route, that's when you break him off and he has no clue what's coming. Everything, your 8, your bang 8, your post should look just like your 9, which should look just like your dig route, which should look just like your comeback, which should look just like your slant. Everything coming off the ball should be hard, precise. Everything should look like you're challenging that guy vertically. You don't necessarily see that with Malachi Dupre. And finally, I think he just needs to play to his full potential. Didn't have the greatest quarterbacks at LSU, which is why I think he left early. Probably could have really bettered himself by going back to school for an additional year, maybe having some better numbers. But you just can't trust the quarterbacks at LSU. You don't know if that situation is going to ever improve itself in the near future. And he just probably felt like my best opportunity is to just get out of here before something happens to me, like I incur an injury or something of that nature. So I don't think he's hit his full peak as a receiver yet. I think the best of Malachi Dupre is to come. How good is his best? That's the answer we probably all want to know. But in the 7th round, 247th overall selection, LSU wide receiver Malachi Dupre is a double to round out this Packers draft. So it's a 10-player draft. A lot of height, weight, speed specimens, some guys coming off of injuries. But the Packers attacked the offensive side of football after really going heavy defensively early. They really upgraded their offense late in this draft. Their first 4 picks, all defense. Their final 6 picks, all offense. So they went and attacked both sides of the football aggressively in 2 different portions of the draft. Let's tally up their score and get out of here. 1 home run with your first pick, then 3 triples nets you a triples bonus, then 6 doubles nets you 4 doubles bonuses. You tally all of that up, it's 36. You divide by the number of picks, 10, which yields the Green Bay Packers a 3.6 triple in the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. That's a hell of a haul for the Green Bay Packers. We'll see how this draft turns out for them as they continue to stockpile talent on already what's a talented football team headed by Aaron Rodgers. It's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 2017 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series program of the Green Bay Packers. All I simply want to know is who's next.